based on historic record, I'll get to that in a minute, the empirical data, and the clinical record of hundreds of doctors who've been over there and seen it firsthand, is over 300,000.
Wow.
We're talking 8 times. The undercount is 8 times less than it should be. It'll double by the end of this year. And there's corroboration by the head of the global health.
All right, Ralph, that number 300,000 is greater than the number that the Lancet came out with, which I think was about 186,000 a few months ago. How do you reach the 300,000 threshold, or how do you count that?
Yeah, well, here's how it comes to bear. The Lancet is now 2 months old, and they said the figure could be much higher. They were very cautious. So it's well over 200,000 now, just extrapolating the last 8 weeks. Remember, there's starvation going on. There's disease. These are directly related to civilian being targeted. So I start out with a lot of projections by UN humanitarian, basically saying that if the conditions persist, by the end of the year, there'll be 500,000 fatalities. And, they don't all die on December 31st, 2024. They die by the hour. But here's the historical record, which probably even you, as a scholar, are not aware of. Israel has always targeted civilians. In 1978, Israel's most prominent military analyst, Zev Schiff, summed up remarks by Chief of Staff Mordechai Gur as follows, quote, "The Israeli army has always struck civilian populations, purposefully and consciously. The army has never distinguished civilian from military targets, but purposely attacked civilian targets," end quote. And then former UN ambassador and foreign minister of Israel, Abba Eban, very well-regarded historic figure, by the way, who lectured at Princeton in the 1950s. He wrote of Israel under then Prime Minister Menachem Begin that Israel, quote, "is wantonly inflicting every possible measure of death and anguish on civilian populations in a mood reminiscent of regimes which neither Mr. Begin nor I would dare to mention by name," end quote.